¿Qué tal? Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es José Manuel Martínez, consultor de servicios de TI en Lowpre International. Les doy la más cordial bienvenida a este webinar con el tema Descubra cómo migrar a la nube. La agenda para el día de hoy acerca de nosotros de Lowpre International, el tema Descubra cómo migrar a la nube y finalmente una sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Les comento que a lo largo de este webinar ustedes pueden en la parte superior del chat introducir sus preguntas y al finalizar nuestra experta nos ayudará a contestar cada una de ellas. Bueno, Lowpre International somos una empresa de consultoría en TI con más de 20 años de experiencia en Latinoamérica, Europa y Estados Unidos. Implementamos soluciones que apoyan a las mejores prácticas como lo son ITIL, ISO 27002 y COVID. Nuestro modelo de negocio es el siguiente: siguiendo las mejores prácticas, creamos metodologías propias basados en la experiencia y usando la tecnología. Les ofrecemos a nuestros clientes servicios de consultoría, soluciones de software y actualización tecnológica, ayudándolos a ustedes a alcanzar sus objetivos de negocio. De igual forma, contamos con líneas de negocio. La primera de ellas es la seguridad de la información, en la cual pues podemos tener un registro claro y preciso sobre quién puede acceder a nuestra información, quién realiza cambios, cómo están los perfiles en el sistema. Podemos monitorear las políticas, incluso quién puede realizar cambios o quién puede ejecutar comandos en nuestros servidores. Y también la parte de la transferencia de archivos por medio de encriptación. También tenemos soluciones que nos van a ayudar a proteger esta parte. Dentro del monitoreo de infraestructura y servicios de TI, vamos a poder conocer cuál de nuestros equipos está consumiendo más ancho de banda en nuestro enlace, así como tener una visión de la disponibilidad y desempeño de nuestros equipos. Igual podemos asociar esta monitoreo de infraestructura a un proceso que fuera crítico para el negocio y saber en tiempo real a lo mejor cómo van nuestras ventas o el estatus de los inventarios. Dentro del control de cambios, la tecnología nos permite dar un seguimiento al ciclo de desarrollo del software al mejorar controles de versiones y cambios realizados, logrando así reducir el tiempo que se puede emplear en la liberación de algún cambio o algún nuevo módulo. En la línea de negocios de Performance y Capacity Planning podemos conocer el desempeño de los servidores, así como ayudarlos a realizar una proyección que les va a permitir saber cuándo puede ser necesario aumentar los recursos del servidor o incluso cuándo necesitan cambiarlos. Y finalmente la automatización de tareas y procesos de TI. Aquí vamos a poder administrar esas tareas, procesos en multiplataformas seguidos por un diagrama de flujo y mostrándonos cómo va desarrollándose a lo largo del tiempo por dashboard. A lo largo de este 20 años de experiencia hemos apoyado a las mejores empresas del mundo y aquí les presentamos a algunos de nuestros clientes. A lo largo de estos 20 años igual hemos formado alianzas tecnológicas con empresas líderes en la industria para brindarles a ustedes las mejores soluciones y servicios especializados. En esta ocasión hemos invitado a nuestro aliado de negocio Health System. Y bueno, tiene más de 30 años en el mercado de TI, más de 10,000 clientes alrededor del mundo, atiende a 350 de las 2,000 mejores empresas según Forbes. Y como invitada especial tenemos a Pat Cameron, quien es directora de automatización tecnológica. Cuenta ella con más de 25 años de experiencia en Health System. Pat, please proceed with your presentation.
And I'm joined today by Richard Schoen. Hey, Richard, welcome.
Good morning. Yeah, everybody, I'm Richard Schoen. I'm actually Director of Document Management here at Health Systems. I also do a lot of automation stuff. I'm part of the technical solutions group like Pat, bringing topics like this to our customers and prospective customers. And I have over 28 years of background with IBM and Windows and Linux platforms, managing, delivering forms and documents, and helping customers implement paperless process as well as other process automation as well. So Pat and I have worked together for several years.
That's right. I bet you've seen a lot of evolution too. We didn't even think of a cloud in the olden days, did we?
Yeah, when I started right at the, right pre-PC, and to where we are today,
Yeah,
so it's
me
been an
too.
interesting arc.
I installed the first PC at the hospital. How about that? So this is what we're going to, so a little bit about who Help Systems is. I see some familiar faces out there, or some familiar names. Thank you for joining us, some of our customers, but some that are not so familiar. So before we get rolling, just a little bit of an introduction to Help Systems and what we do. Help Systems has been in business for over 32 years, started early in the 80s, providing systems management, business intelligence, network and infrastructure monitoring, document management, and some security and audit solutions for IBM Windows, Linux, and AIX platforms. And we also provide several automation technologies that can streamline and automate the way users get their work done and help them to get it done more efficiently. And we'll show you a couple of those today. So this is our agenda for today. Whether you're migrating partial or entire workloads to the cloud, that is a key objective for many organizations today. We'll spend a little bit of time reviewing the state of cloud adoption, and we'll share some of the results from a survey that we sponsored at the end of 2016. Then we'll talk about some of the common cloud migration challenges that customers have seen and shared with us, and a few cloud application use cases, just to give you some ideas about where you might be able to start using cloud technologies. And then we'll end up with some advice on how to proceed as you start thinking about doing more in the cloud.
All right. So some of you, as Pat said, may have started your journey to the cloud already. What we're seeing is migrating some or all of your computing workloads to the cloud is kind of a primary objective for many organizations today. So while the benefits of operating in the cloud, like cost savings, scalability, and increased collaboration potential are widely known, the reality of the transition can be challenging. IT departments have a wide variety of factors that we have to think about, including the cost of the migration, security concerns, and then difficulties with application integration and automation. I hear that all the time when we talk about email, and we'll talk about that in some of our use cases. So this means that cloud migration is a process that takes time, leaving many companies in sort of a hybrid state of partial migration. So the resulting mixed environments present their own unique challenges and requirements. So our recent cloud migration survey was sponsored in order to better understand the current state of cloud migrations for businesses. We surveyed over 254 professionals across industries and businesses of all sizes, and we're going to be sharing and interpreting some of the results with you here today. All right, on our first slide, so it's no surprise that the majority of organizations operate applications both in the cloud and on-premise already. Not only do most businesses currently run a mixed environment, but the number is probably sure to increase. 69% of our respondents said they expected to have at least some systems and applications in the cloud within the next year. This number could potentially be higher than reported, as it's common in many organizations for a business department to adopt a solution and tell IT about it later, and then they become involved when it comes to managing it and automation and that sort of stuff. So while cloud adoption continues to increase, there's little evidence that on-premise applications will be fully abandoned. I don't see that. Do you, Pat, that people will get rid of their on-site stuff, ERP and that sort of stuff?
Nope, exactly. I see a kind of a hybrid environment just about everywhere.
Yeah, so out of our 254 companies in the survey, only 4% are currently operating completely in the cloud, and 5 of those businesses had less than 50 employees and possibly a less complex IT infrastructure, maybe file storage and email, than some of the larger enterprises in the study. That makes it easier to move their loads. It's also much more complex when you have hundreds or thousands of employees and you're operating complex ERP and business systems, so it's a little harder for larger companies to move fully to the cloud.
Exactly. So some of the biggest decision factor that we learned from our survey was cost. So out of the organizations operating in a mixed cloud and on-premise environment, 62% have plans for further migration, and then 39% of the total respondents have budgeted for additional migration for this coming year. When deciding which applications to migrate to the cloud, the biggest deciding factor was cost. And, you know, that's usually the biggest deciding factor for a lot of decisions, a lot of business decisions that we make. After that, the strategies used to prioritize application migration varied widely. One thing was very clear. For the immediate future, most companies will continue to operate both on-premise and in the cloud. And then these are some of the quotes that we got back in our survey. I thought it was pretty interesting because one respondent said all their critical data is stored in the cloud, and the next one was all mission critical applications are deployed on premise. So it's interesting how that culture changes, and companies have a whole different view of what to put in the cloud or what not to. I have a couple of polling questions. Let me open one of these up just to get a little bit of an idea of where you're at with cloud migration. So I'm going to open this one. Very quick little poll here as far as cloud adoption in your environment. So are you totally cloud-based? Do you have a hybrid of some applications in the cloud, some on-premise, or totally on-premise? Haven't really moved to the cloud yet. I'll give you a couple of minutes to go ahead and answer that, and we'll take a look and see where we're at with this crowd. So as you can see from this slide, email and other, I do love other, but email seems to be the highest number of applications that are moving to the cloud. Office 365 and Google are very popular. We do see a lot of conversations, or we have a lot of conversations with customers who are moving their on-premise Exchange servers to Office 365 because managing those mail servers can be a real pain as far as IT tasks that are undertaken. I would guess that other stands for a lot of file sharing apps, file storage, other document sharing applications, so that you can work cooperatively with your other coworkers who may be remotely, and we're not all in the same office these days either. Another core application that's moving to the cloud is your CRM. You can see that by the way Salesforce has taken over. CRM in the cloud is really very popular and very effective. Again, your salespeople can all get to it very easily when it's out in the cloud. A couple other examples then. Help desk is the next going down the line here, are also moving to the cloud, where you've got applications like ServiceNow and Zendesk and others that are being heavily utilized as cloud-based applications and services rather than in-house services. And then your ERP and accounting applications, there's also a push for providers to go into the cloud between providers such as Intuit, who provides QuickBooks, and then your larger ERP providers like Infor and Epicor and others are all moving to a cloud-based application as a service model. One thing for any company moving ERP to the cloud is to think about your cloud application is only going to respond as fast as your hosted systems and also based on your internet speed. The cloud is only as fast as that internet connection that you've got, and if your telecom goes down, you are offline. So these are some of the things to think about when you consider uptime requirements for your cloud applications. So I will open up my results for my poll, and it looks like almost 50-50. 46% is a hybrid environment, 46% of you are still totally on-premise, and 8% are totally cloud-based. Interesting, interesting. We'll have to see how that changes in a year. See what happens.
We're split right now.
Yeah, exactly. So some of the common hybrid environment activities in the complex IT environment of modern enterprises, critical business processes are rarely limited to a single server or a single application. So migrating some infrastructure to the cloud will only complicate that requirement for running those processes smoothly. For example, a process running on a cloud application might also need to use data that's stored on-premise in your data warehouse. This survey found that running cross-platform processes is very common in most businesses. Do you see any of your processes that you run that look familiar, transferring data between on-premise and cloud applications, importing and exporting database information? As you can see, a nice chunk of over 30% had cross-platform processes that they need to manage.
Yeah, and DR in the cloud looks like that's pretty high as well. I know we see that in a lot of our customer base where they're doing DR on cloud sites.
Exactly.
All right, so this slide talks about how are you automating. So based on the results of this question, only 10% of our respondents are using a business process or robotic process automation tool to centrally manage their automation and their scheduling processes. So any organization that doesn't automate or that uses an inadequate automation solution is missing out on benefits like increased efficiency and accuracy and cost savings. And as you can see on the chart, 34% of respondents were not automating their environments at all. It's always surprising when we have those discussions. I talked to a customer the other day that they have a whole bunch of copy and paste processes going on. It's very huge to be able to start doing automation around those sort of things. So we always call those mind-numbing processes. But we've all been there, right? So of those that automate, 32% use a homegrown tool. We hear that a lot. I'm using my homegrown tool. It's starting to break. So this is a common first step for companies getting started with automation, but it comes with risks, and as a business scales, a homegrown solution is difficult to maintain often. We talk to businesses who have cobbled together solutions with one or two open source free technologies or some homemade utilities, and the developer's gone, and the more they work that they start throwing at the process, the homegrown automation starts to fall apart and break down. So that's where we have a lot of discussions around that, where people are coming to us for a solution that's top-down, built for automation. And then a job scheduler can mean many things, from basic scheduler that is running on a single machine to a comprehensive scheduling solution that spans all servers in the environment, or VMs, and provides enterprise class features like event-driven scheduling, high availability, and of course the ability to automate cloud applications. So in those mixed environments common today, these cross-platform automation and scheduling capabilities are definitely a necessity.
Awesome. I just popped up another poll kind of asking about where you're at with automation. So you guys can take a look at that while Richard talks about other cloud-based organizations.
Yep. So,
yeah, this was a very interesting question, I thought.
Well, it seems
like
automation
in the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of understand it, but so it's possible that the difficulty of integrating complex mixed environments leads businesses to believe that their cloud systems can't be automated. A good example of that, obviously, Pat was talking about Office 365. We get that question commonly. Ooh, we went to Office 365. Can we still do email automation? So the answer is yes, but I think there's a bit of fear there. So organizations with most of their applications in the cloud appear to be using a smaller amount of automation. So we're not sure on the exact reasons, but it could be that they're not aware of automation solutions that work both in the cloud and on-premise, perhaps. I know in our case we work in both scenarios. The exception is companies who have adopted business process automation or robotic process automation platforms already. As cloud adoption grows in organizations who have already adopted cloud apps, they have also grown their automation footprint as well. And then business process automation has the flexibility to handle almost any process, regardless of the application used, and is ideal for both IT professionals and other business users, which is essential for a cloud automation tool, since many of the apps commonly migrated have an end-user focus and started from the business units to begin with. So process automation can be paired with cross-platform job scheduling to create a comprehensive automation solution, but only a few organizations in our survey were taking advantage of both types of software. So definitely interesting. This is my favorite one. Where is your cloud? So
where's your cloud? I love it.
I was going to ask as one of the questions, what color is your cloud? You know, there's that. So when asked where their clouds are located, this is not surprising for me. 53% of respondents said their cloud was in a co-location facility running on their own hardware, which basically means you've got hosted servers. This has always been my favorite approach because I ran a data center and I like to know where my data is and be able to back things up to tape or other removable storage and be able to get at it. To me, this just highlights that cloud is really a buzzword that encompasses pretty much anything from servers hosted in a local managed data center on your own servers to hosted email offerings like Office 365 and Google Apps. So there's kind of a spectrum there. So where the cloud data is located depends on how much risk an organization is willing to put up with, and that includes potentially losing all their data in case the data wasn't properly backed up by a provider, such as Microsoft or Amazon or some of the smaller players. So there's definitely many flavors of cloud. 21% said their virtual servers are hosted on Microsoft Azure, and 14% said Amazon EC2. So both Amazon and Microsoft hosted services are growing very rapidly. I think both are building new data centers, I think almost daily they're starting. So 14% are using hosted virtual servers elsewhere, which could include Rackspace and GoDaddy and other providers offering virtual private servers. So the cloud management and hosting market will continue to grow and change over the next few, or actually not next few, I would say, over the next several years. It's going to continue to accelerate.
Right. I listened to a story on the radio yesterday about Amazon saying that their cloud services are bigger than, growing bigger than the rest of their business. When you think of how big Amazon is, that's really where their growth is in those providing those services. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Results of our poll, it looks like we have 38% of you have a homegrown solution still. 77% are using a traditional job scheduler. 38% using a robotic process automation tool, and then 15% have the famous other. And nobody answered no automation. So that's a good thing that you're being able to automate your processes as well, whether they're on the cloud or on premise.
Yeah, definitely. So this is interesting. The proportion of machines that respondents had in the cloud versus machine on-premise did not vary significantly by platform. So Windows, Linux, AIX, and even IBM I systems and backup partitions are now being hosted in the cloud more regularly. So this would include machines for primary operation as well as disaster recovery. So surprising to see it's kind of an even split, at least from our respondent base.
All right. I popped up another question, too. We'll kind of see where you guys are at. While you answer that, I'm going to talk a little bit about a use case that we have, and this was an interesting one. Richard and I both went to visit this customer and help them kind of audit their automation and give them some suggestions for additional automation. So they were definitely in a hybrid environment, that they had a homegrown ERP. They used Salesforce as their CRM. And in the task that we were looking at, they needed to access FedEx, DHL, all of those services that were delivering packages. So they had thousands of transactions a day, and what they were doing is they would receive an email, and it had order information. Then the agent or the operator would there would be a spreadsheet attached to that email. They'd have to save it, filter it, and sort it by the different carriers, and then go out to those carrier sites and check for tracking information to make sure that the packages that people had ordered were on their way or moving forward somehow. And then they would update their CRM, Salesforce, with that tracking status. And they also updated information in their ERP, I believe. So there was a lot of cutting and pasting, logging into websites, etc. So what the customer wanted to be able to do is eliminate those manual steps, get that tracking information down from the cloud, from FedEx and DHL, etc., automatically update Salesforce with those statuses, and then also update their data warehouse that was on site. So what we provided is the ability to decrease the time for each of those transactions, decrease the number of errors. I think that's a huge benefit of automation, is there are no more errors. The other thing that we did with this customer is we were able to check all of the transactions instead of just a sampling. Because there were so many thousands per day, the operators or the agents could only do the top 5 and the bottom 5, or the top 10 and the bottom 10, whereas with an automation tool, we could do all 1,000 of those statuses and get a better picture. So this is kind of what that use case looked like. This is just an example that they would get their email. Their email was in the cloud, and then they would download to their ERP system, which was on premise. They would need to log into FedEx, DHL, sorry about that, which onto their websites, download information to Salesforce, which was out in the cloud, and then also bring that information into the data warehouse, and then they also were backing up their data in the cloud. So as you can see in that one use case, we have a combination of on-premise applications and cloud applications, and we were able to automate each of those steps and kind of eliminate the errors in the middle, eliminate all that cutting and pasting, and like Richard said earlier, those kind of mind-numbing tasks, and then allow those agents to provide more customer service for those customers, so they were available for phone calls instead of being logged into their PCs. So we have, for our cloud, for our architecture, we can see out in the cloud, people have 50% people have Windows and Linux, and some Unix. And then on premise, we have Windows, about 80% Windows, 40% Linux, 30% IBM, 30% Unix, and 10% IBM I on premise. So a nice, interesting mix of platforms that you all are using.
All right. Yeah, and an interesting note, too, that particular customer Pat was just talking about, they are a very, very large company, and they had invested, I believe Google was their core email and Salesforce.com for CRM, so very heavily invested in cloud-based email and CRM. So one of the questions that comes up in my mind is, are we putting too much faith in the cloud when handling critical tasks such as email? So when migrating your email to the cloud, you need to make sure that any automation software you're using will work with those cloud-based services. And like I mentioned earlier, that's one of the biggest questions we get. If I move my Exchange server to the cloud, will it still work? And at least in our case, the answer is yes. So this includes both outbound and inbound email processes you might have in place. In the case of our automation software, we have customers using Exchange or migrating to Office 365, and it's simply a setting change when they move from on-premise to a hosted email solution at Office 365, Google, or some other outsourced provider. And when mails need to be declared as permanent records and perhaps captured into a document management or a records management system, you probably want to consider capturing and storing those records outside the email in case something happens to the mail system. And also, when you move to a hosted provider such as Office 365, you're putting all your trust in them and hoping a crash doesn't take out your mailboxes. So beware of outage incidents from the email provider, as this can slow down your daily operations. And also, chances are very low, but it's still possible that an outage and loss of data can leave your business holding the bag legally. So be aware of any legal and compliance issues so you're fully aware of all aspects of moving email to the cloud. And then also ask the provider how they handle backup and recovery and what are the service level agreements that they have in place. That's always that faith thing when you throw stuff in the cloud, right? And it's all backed up. I still back up my data that I store in the cloud. Just because.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So Pat mentioned earlier, so CRM and help desk software are a few of the core apps that many businesses have moved to the web via cloud service providers such as Salesforce and ServiceNow, ConnectWise, Zendesk, others. The CRM system is meant to be a central clearinghouse of information for customer accounts and contacts, sales, tickets, cases, all that sort of stuff. I've talked to many customers who have a CRM system, but they don't fully use it. They use it as a name and address book because they can't access all the core information from a single consolidated system view, such as their CRM, which is what that's meant to be. So often they go look for information in 2 or 3 different systems. So it's often due to difficulties in bringing data in from other systems to the CRM to provide one holistic view of the customer across the organization. We just implemented a new CRM last year, and I love it because we had like 13 different silos, and we have a consolidated CRM and help systems now as well. So I definitely understand that concept. So when you're picking a cloud-based CRM, make sure your automation process software can read and write information to those systems easily, so the required daily information updates from all business systems can end up in the right place in the CRM system as you move from in-house to hosted. And whether you're using cloud-hosted or on-premise CRM, having one centralized view of the organization is a great way to keep all teams from sales and service and support on the same page. Pat said you like this picture. So
I do
we're
love
illustrating
this picture.
here. yeah, it's kind of a cool picture. I didn't make this picture, but it's nice, and it kind of illustrates document signing over the internet. So as electronic document signature capture becomes more prevalent in our business processes, often regulations such as PCI and other compliance issues come into play to keep public systems separated from systems behind the firewall. I recently talked to a customer who was implementing a document signature capture solution on Microsoft Azure in the cloud on a server, but because of compliance requirements, that solution couldn't directly access any internal business systems. So because of this, a designated secure location was set up to interchange the documents between the 2 systems and those networks without directly interacting. So secure document signing scenarios can work with public and private cloud drive sharing applications. And with the right process automation software, your business can keep business document signing compliant, whether it's being done from a PC, a tablet, or a phone. So that's pretty cool stuff.
It is very cool. And so just like Richard was talking about, drive sharing applications are a nice way to allow remote users to interact with documents and capture signatures and other information, and then sync those documents with corporate information in the data center. A document can be, can be sent to a remote device by syncing with the device via an app. After a document gets completed or signed on the device, the document can then be synced back to the cloud drive and then processed or imported into your document management system. Services such as Dropbox and Google Drive and OneDrive are examples of public cloud solutions that can be used for syncing documents for these types of processes. However, these services are provided on public networks, not a secure private network. As an example for organizations that need to use a private cloud solution for secure document transfers, products such as our Go Anywhere software allow documents to be sent and received securely using a private cloud derived sync application, secure FTP, or secure email to keep file interchange compliant. Whether you use a public or a private cloud, field service document applications can be nicely facilitated by using a best-of-breed device applications coupled with that cloud storage service. So cloud storage services are huge these days, and I'm just getting familiar with our Go Anywhere product, and it's great, like especially for those secure document movement that you need to provide.
Absolutely.
Here we have another use case. What this is a user provisioning workflow that we've created with our Automate BPA product. And this shows kind of a combination in one workflow, a combination of cloud and on-premise applications that need to be included in a single process. So what we're doing here is inputting new user information or change of user information. And that can be done with email, or it can be done on a spreadsheet, or we can read from a database, or whatever is triggering that new employee. So as soon as an email comes in from maybe HR or maybe the help desk with a list of things that need to get done, that will start this workflow off. So this could be coming from a cloud email, or it could be coming from your local Exchange server. And then what we have here are some decision points. What application does this user need to be enrolled in? And so once this decision point is made, then we will trigger the correct next step workflow. User storage, Active Directory, or an LDAP server, we need to enroll that employee in Active Directory. We also need to provide a mailbox, so this could be in the cloud or it could be on-premise. And then HR, as far as payroll, ADP might be out in the cloud. We need to enroll that employee in there. So depending on the different applications, doesn't really matter where they are, we can take care of all of that with a single workflow with the Automate BPA product.
Yeah, and I always like, Pat, when you're testing, it's nice because you can actually visually watch the workflows move as you're testing out a process.
Right,
nice
you get
too.
a little green arrow, and then if you have a problem, it'll drop down and send out notification. So it is very nice auditing all of those steps and then logging all of those steps as well. So with the Automate Complete products, you can start automating your workforce wherever they are in this continuum. Wherever your key processes, wherever you're at, we can change your business as your automation needs expand. So you can start at the personal productivity or team productivity level, all the way up to enterprise IT automation and monitoring your systems. So as you start looking at automation and monitoring solutions, don't get stuck with an automation platform that's only focused on a single type of automation. Keep in mind that you need that flexibility that we can provide, a company like Help Systems, with our product line. So maybe it's some traditional job scheduling that you need to get in place in order for moving your applications to the cloud, but you also might have some single desktop processes that you want to automate as well. So we can provide software for meeting that individual or team automation, also for a department automation, and we can automate some desktop applications, data entry tasks, web information capture, like we did with the customer that we talked about early, and also improve those transaction response times. And then we can also help with enterprise-wide job scheduling needs. If you've got batch jobs that run in the background, they might be related to these processes or they might not. They might be totally separate. But you can use that same tool set for scheduling jobs as those requirements get more complex, cross-platform, multi-dependencies, and those types of requirements. And then we can also monitor the network and kind of monitor for any problems and trigger a task that will maybe bring up another server, spin up another virtual machine for you automatically when you need to. If you do have some kind of downtime, we can monitor that network and then repair the problem on that server. So keep it in mind from desktop all the way to monitoring your systems across your enterprise.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about our Automate solution and some of the things you can do. So the Automate business process automation platform is used to automate the creation, running, and management of Windows process automation tasks and workflows without writing code, kind of like Pat showed the BPA server a few slides back. So task developers and workflow developers use drag and drop to build managed tasks and workflows, which can be run on demand, on a scheduled basis, or in response to several different trigger types. So Automate provides over 600 predefined actions and activities for many common robotic process automation use cases, and the software can be easily trained to perform many of the mundane tasks that users might be spending time doing manually today. I heard with one of our people here today, or last week, I was having a discussion that they called that the soul-sucking work that people do. So that was another term that I've heard.
Soul-sucking sometimes.
It really is. It makes your brain go numb, right? So the items on this slide represent many of the commonly used operations of Automate, from file transfer to file manipulation, reading and writing of databases and Excel and CSV, text files, XML. Our software can automatically process just about any data source. So if you've ever found yourself copying and pasting Excel or CSV data between applications or reformatting data manually, Automate can ease your pain. And we also allow you to automate monitoring mailboxes for inbound email for processing, and can automatically format and send outbound messages and document attachments as well in both text and HTML. And then SharePoint and user onboarding and provisioning automation are also available as part of our 600 automation activities. And then automating user interface interactions with Windows, web, and Java applications is a popular way to integrate to existing apps if they don't have an API available to interface with. So this is commonly referred to as robotic process automation or swivel chair automation. In these scenarios, workflows are built to log into an application, navigate the user interface, and enter or extract data or run jobs such as invoice or report generations, perhaps. We often talk with customers about scenarios when they have someone logging into a website several times per day to do some work. By automating the login and the navigating and entering or downloading of files or information, customer service teams can be freed up to do more important work, such as actually servicing the customer. Wouldn't that be nice?
Right. More customer facing.
That's always good stuff. And then
all about the customer.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we also support integrating outside technologies when you need more than what's built into our automation actions. If you have command line programs, web services, PowerShell commands, there's thousands of those today, and other applications that need to be run, Automate can facilitate the management, the scheduling, and the logging for those applications, so everything's sort of done in one place. And then we also have the capability to provide OCR and PDF manipulation capabilities for managing incoming documents and extracting information or bursting of PDF documents, perhaps. So whether you're using the built-in functionality or outside apps, the Automate business process automation platform can manage all the work from a single platform.
And if you have multiple platforms, as far as job and workflow scheduling goes, our scheduling software components support setting up simple or complex scheduling for Windows, Linux, AIX, and IBM systems. Scheduled work can be coordinated across multiple interconnected robots or agents so that the system processes stay in sync no matter which server they're running on. A single scheduled process can include one or more servers very easily as a natural part of the job scheduling process. This works nicely in an on-premise, hybrid, or a full cloud automation deployment to help your cloud apps feel like a natural extension of your corporate application infrastructure.
We call that the happy cloud.
That is a happy cloud. And then for network and device monitoring, we can provide a living view of your network. This map will show you the status of all of the devices out on your network. From network servers and device statuses, monitoring traffic flow, we can integrate it all to a visual dashboard so that your data center team can immediately see if all the servers are up and running, and also can see when something goes offline. Being able to react immediately to outages is important to keep your cloud and on-premise systems up and running all the time. That's going to be the key to make sure that they're 24/7.
All right, so let's look at our Super Bowl playbook here. So how should you approach cloud migration in the Super Bowl? So first and foremost, determine if there's really a need for cloud services. So if your internal IT and business teams can manage your servers and are using technologies such as VMware and Hyper-V, chances are that may be enough cloud for your team, and you don't have to move your servers or work to the cloud. So it really isn't, you don't have to do it. It's buzz, but it doesn't have to happen. Also, do you have compliance need, such as we discussed in our document signing example, where processes need to be kept physically separate? There's lots of press on cloud offerings, but each business will have different needs. So next, determine if moving your own server infrastructure to a hosted data center is better than moving to a full-blown cloud such as Amazon or Microsoft Azure, where you have to have faith that their infrastructure is solid and will stay up and running all the time. Plus, the meter's always moving too, because you're charged based on bandwidth and services. So cost is always a moving target. So possibly start with a single application such as email, CRM, service desk. Email seems to be the most common one to start with because storage needs continue to grow. However, remember to keep in mind what happens if email gets lost or destroyed. Should some of the email messages be kept on site or in a document management system, declared as corporate records for compliance? And even if you do move fully to the cloud, make sure you understand the risks and recovery procedures in the event of outages. All your data is held by the cloud providers, so what do you do to get your data back if you move back to on-premise later or they go out of business perhaps? I've seen that happen to a few providers. Once you've determined which apps will move to the cloud, make sure you're able to integrate, monitor, and schedule your on-premise and cloud applications easily so that users can automate boring and redundant task work and continue to work on the most important work without interruption. And as you're going through the cloud migration thought process, we're always happy to chat with your teams about automation needs and best strategies, perhaps.
Exactly. So I think what we've seen is that cloud computing is no longer just a new trend, but it really is becoming the status quo in industries everywhere. At the same time, very few organizations have made the leap to an entirely cloud-based IT infrastructure. So instead, the majority of IT departments are dealing with operating in a mixed environment of both cloud and on-premise systems. For the foreseeable future, companies across all industries will require solutions that can manage the integration and automation of applications on disparate platforms. Unfortunately, many organizations are using automation solutions that are inadequate for a modern mixed environment and are still struggling to overcome integration issues as they migrate to the cloud. So thank you for joining us today. I hope that you picked up a few pointers and some information on automation and migrating to the cloud. Hopefully we've piqued your interest a bit about automation, and we can take advantage of this free automation review offer. Certainly you can just navigate to the link above and then reach out to the sales team, or you can reach out to me or Richard, and we'd be happy to talk to your teams about cloud automation needs. And we're also happy to provide an overview, or an in-depth technical demo if you'd like to see our automation technology in action. I know a few of you out there have gotten a couple messages from people that are just starting to implement some of our automation tools. So happy to help you with that task as well. And see if any questions come in, but if not, thank you for joining us today. I hope you have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.